Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, I'm just going to quickly introduce myself. My name is Adev. I've been training since I was around 15 to 16 years old. I'm 23 years old now, and this is without a doubt the thing that I love most in life. And I do know that I wish I knew the things I know now when I first started lifting. So I'm making this video today to list 5 things that I wish I knew when I first started lifting. Disclaimer, I am by no means saying that I know everything. I don't. I'm always willing to learn or be educated. These are just simple things that I think would have saved me a lot of time and made my training so much more efficient if I knew. So let's get into it. The first and the most important thing, you are probably not training hard enough. If you are training to gain muscle, to be leaner, to be toner, to, I don't know, gain bigger glutes, to look stronger, you are probably not training hard enough. It's just an art that you have to master, and let me explain why. One of the single most important things about training and training efficiently for muscle gain is to be training close to failure. I say this a lot, and I've talked about this on some of my videos, that if you are choosing a 10 rep range, that last 10th rep should be nearly impossible. You could probably go for a couple more, or they would be incredibly hard. So every time your rep range changes, that means that the last rep of that rep range should be incredibly difficult. Now, the reason I say this is an art is because that's not easy to do. It's really hard to push yourself nearly to failure or to recognize where that is, because lifting is uncomfortable to begin with. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. My recommendation for this is to take yourself to failure. You don't want to be going to failure all the time, but especially when you're still trying to learn and understand what works best for you in the gym and you don't really know what pushing to that intensity feels like, push yourself to failure. Take all of these exercises you regularly do and throw a set that goes to failure. So you can recognize, okay, at what point does the regular pain that I think is painful mean I can't do another rep after this? At which rep do you have to stop midway because you can't complete the rep? Getting to know this part of your body is such a useful tool, because from then on out, you should be taking your body close to failure. I tell friends I take to the gym this all the time. Lifting weights is painful, as it's supposed to be. So if you're in pain, people often think I'm working hard, but the pain close to failure is incredibly different. I can do 12 air squats and feel it in my quads, but I can also probably do 135 pounds for 12 reps before I come close to failure. So that's exactly what you need to be focusing on. Number 2, listen to me and listen to me closely. You are not eating enough protein. I know you're not. Most people on average are not eating enough protein. That doesn't mean if I spend all day only eating protein and nothing else that I'm gonna see incredible gains. Oftentimes people who transition to weightlifting for the first time, a regular diet does not include that much protein on average. So keep track of your protein. If you do not want to track your food and track your meals, just track your protein. A good rule of thumb is 1 gram per 1 pound of body weight. A little bit under that is perfect. So if you just shoot for that, you're solid. You're probably gonna have a little bit of error in your counting, especially if you're eyeballing it and not really being super precise. So you're good if you stick to that number. Number 3, you are only counting your reps, and that's where you're making a mistake. Let me explain. You could just be cranking the reps out. You could just be doing 10 squats as fast as possible. You could just be doing 10 curls as fast as possible. And while I do think that there is benefits to things like that, and even half reps, etc., I think if you took the time to count how long you were moving through your movements, you would see incredible changes. What I'm trying to say is that the tempo of your movements matter a lot. You're already gonna be going through the reps anyway, so take my advice and start focusing on different parts of your movement and adjusting the time that you spend there. For example, while you're doing Romanian deadlifts, try to count for 4 seconds as you reverse down for every single rep. For your hip thrust, if you are trying to prioritize glute gain, hold at the top of the motion for a second or 2 seconds before you reverse. Stop just counting the reps and start counting how long you spend in the eccentric and concentric portion of that movement. I feel like people get a good idea of which exercises work best for them and work best for the muscle group that they're trying to train, but they rush through the exercises. It will make a huge difference if you take your time and you sort of understand what portions of the exercise can benefit you how. Number 4, what your genetics are capable of making you look like, you have no idea. I know that this was the case for me, and I know that this is common for a lot of people, But people give up on their genetics before they have any idea what their genetic potential is. And it's super easy to feel like when things aren't going the way that you exactly want them to, or as fast as you would want them to, that you start to sort of fall back on this idea that my genetics weren't built for it. It takes a lot more than you think to reach your genetic potential. So don't give up on yourself and your genetics so quickly when you probably haven't even unraveled the whole thing yet. For example, for me, I did not like how small my thighs were. I thought bigger thighs were really, really cute, and I just thought, I'm not built for it. My thighs would never load the way that I want them to, and they would never fill up the way that I want them to. And I don't really hold a lot of mass there. Joke's on me. I can't stop growing my quads. I want them to slow down. And I had nearly given up on the idea that I would ever have full quads before I'd even tapped into that potential. So you are so far from your genetic potential. And even if you aren't, think that way. It's gonna make you work harder, and you're gonna get to the places that you wanna be. So you have a lot more potential than you think. Number 5, and I think the one that's gonna help you the most, is that consistency is key. So what that means for you in terms of your training is stop listening to advice if you do not enjoy that advice. If you are taking advice about which training routine is most effective, but you hate training that way, you are not gonna keep training that way as often as you should. For example, if I wanted to lose some weight, which obviously needs to be paired with eating less, but let's say someone recommends for me to use cardio as a tool to help in the weight loss, but I hate cardio. I will probably skip cardio every day, even though I know that I need to do it. But for me, I enjoy weightlifting. But if I started to incorporate some kind of a cardio weight training routine into my split, so that way I could still get cardio doing the things that I love, I'd probably do it more often. So the key is to stop changing your training style to the things that you think are gonna work most effectively if you hate doing them, because you're just not gonna be doing it enough. So if you enjoy strength training and you don't enjoy high rep ranges and if you enjoy strength training versus hypertrophy. Okay, if you enjoy strength training and you don't enjoy hypertrophy. If you enjoy strength training but you do not enjoy hypertrophy training, but your goal is to gain muscle mass, you can still do that. Maybe not at the same speeds and efficiency as you would with this style of training, but stick to the strength training, because training in other ways with higher volume, higher rep ranges would probably make you hate going to the gym. And that's gonna do nothing for you if you are not training as consistently. I hope these tips helped one of you out there, give you guys little bits and pieces of things that I wish I knew when I was younger. Moral of the story, train hard, eat right, be consistent, and go get those gains.